I was adopted when I was about 2 years old. My adoptive parents also adopted another boy, Sam, who is 18 years old and isn't biologically related to me. Neither of us has had any contact with our biological families, as our parents made it clear they wanted us to wait until we were at least 18 before exploring that part of our past. I've always respected their wishes, and when Sam turned 18, we decided to take an at-home DNA test together. Before we did the test, we made a pact. If either of us found any biological family members, we'd support each other no matter what. The idea was that we were in this together, and if only one of us found family, the other would still be there, no matter how it turned out. The whole reason I waited until now was because I wanted us to do this together, as we'd always planned. Fast forward to when we got our results. I was lucky enough to find some close biological family matches, and one of them turned out to be a brother I never knew I had. He sent me a message right away, and it was full of excitement. He talked about how he has been searching for me for years and how much he wants to connect. It was overwhelming in the best way possible, but I haven't replied yet because I wanted to process everything first. Sam, on the other hand, wasn't as fortunate. His closest match was a fifth cousin, someone who is basically a stranger. Understandably, he was pretty upset. I tried to be there for him, but things took a turn when I told him about the message from my brother. Sam got really upset and said it wasn't fair for me to contact my biological family while he is stuck with nothing. He thinks it's selfish of me to even consider it when we should be doing this together. And if he can't find his family, then neither should I. This led to a pretty heated argument. I tried to explain that I've waited years to do this, out of respect for our parents, and because I wanted to share the experience with him. But now that the opportunity is here, I feel like I shouldn't have to wait any longer, especially since this might be my only chance to connect with my roots. I don't want to hurt Sam, but I also don't want to miss out on this connection with my biological brother, who seems so eager to get to know me. I understand where Sam is coming from. It feels like I'd be abandoning him if I move forward without him, and I don't want to make his feelings worse than they already are. But on the other hand, we're adults now, and I think it's okay for me to pursue this. It's not like I'm trying to exclude him or downplay his feelings, but I don't want to let this opportunity pass by. So, am I the bad person for wanting to contact my biological family, even though my brother doesn't want me to? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the jerk. A fifth cousin is still an entry point and can lead to finding other members of the family. You have to remember that the only DNA they have is from people who join this service. Not everyone from someone's family will join this service. That fifth cousin is the treasure map to finding out the rest of the family. Your brother is hurt and jealous, but his feelings are not your responsibility. They are his. If he truly cares, he will come around and recognize that he is being unkind. I would probably use a softer adjective here, but this subreddit will ban you if you use other adjectives besides unkind. Comment 2. Not the jerk. You deserve to know where you come from. But as someone with a large biological family myself, I can't tell you that biological family or siblings can be overrated, and sometimes they don't have the best intentions. I say consider meeting your biological brother in private. Just be careful not to share too much sensitive information about your life. Remember, biological family or not, you still don't know this person very well. They are essentially still a stranger, so get to know them slowly. But maybe tell someone else when you're going to meet up with them. But definitely not the jerk. Now, for the update. A few weeks after the argument, I decided to reach out to my biological brother, Chris, even though things were still really messy with Sam. I've been thinking about it a lot, and I figured I just couldn't wait any longer. I mean, after all that buildup, I really needed to see where this path was going to take me. I knew Sam was still feeling pretty hurt, but we were adults, right? So we got to figure out our stuff on our own, too. It was a little scary, but I felt like I had to do it. So, I went ahead and sent Chris a message on Facebook. I was really careful about it, just trying to be all chill and stuff. I introduced myself and gave him the basics, like saying I was so pumped to connect and all that. Honestly, my heart was racing when I hit send. I was just hoping he didn't freak out or anything, but to my total surprise, Chris replied super quick. He was like, "Oh my God, I'm so glad to hear from you. Let's meet at this diner." I couldn't believe how excited he was. So we set a date, and I just hoped Sam wouldn't find out before then. But of course, that didn't happen. I told Sam about the meeting, tried to explain why I wanted to do it, but he just blew up. He started yelling, saying I was just ditching him and not even thinking about how he felt. I tried to get him to see my side, but he was just so mad. Of course I felt bad for Sam, but I had to do this. I just had to. The day of the diner meeting came, and I was super nervous. I wasn't sure how Chris and I would vibe in person, but he showed up, and we just clicked right away. Like, seriously, we spent hours just chatting, trading stories about our lives. Chris told me all about his childhood, and it felt like I was filling in a big missing puzzle piece. Then he mentioned something that really hit me. He said he had been looking for Sam too. I felt a bit of a knot in my stomach, knowing how mad Sam would be about it. After a couple hours of just chilling, Chris invited me to a family gathering at his place the next weekend. I was so stoked and couldn't wait to tell him about Sam being invited too. But when I got home and told Sam, well, you can guess what happened. He got even more furious, accusing me of totally betraying him. I tried to reason with him, but he was just screaming that I was prioritizing Chris over him. Things got even worse when Sam found out that the family gathering might have relatives who knew more about our biological parents. That was the last straw for Sam, and he said he was crashing the party, no matter what I said. I begged him not to, but he was already set on it. The night of the gathering, Chris introduced me to all these aunts and uncles who were just so eager to connect. I was loving every second of it, but then, out of nowhere, Sam showed up. The whole vibe just totally changed. People started whispering and pointing at Sam, and I could feel my face turning red. Chris was just confused, trying to figure out why there was this weirdness between us. Sam confronted me right there in front of everyone, demanding to know why I didn't tell him he was invited. It was like a huge explosion, with family members taking sides and the whole thing just turning into a huge debate. Chris tried to mediate, bless his heart, but he was just so lost. Then, in a moment of pure frustration, Sam blurted out this secret about how I wanted to pursue my biological connections, and the whole place just went dead silent. Sam stormed out, saying he was done with me for good. I felt so bad for Chris, just trying to understand all this drama. The next day, Sam sent me this message demanding an apology and threatening to cut me off completely. I was just so over it. I knew I had to confront him, once and for all. I invited him to meet at our childhood home, thinking a heart-to-heart would be the best way to go. When he got there, I just laid it all out. I told him the truth about my search and what I was feeling about Chris. I also confessed that I understood his feelings, but had to follow my path. This just set him off even more. He was screaming about me being selfish and inconsiderate. Then, in a moment of pure frustration, I dropped a huge secret on him. I told him something about our biological parents that he had no clue about. That just shocked him into silence. It was super tense. I felt like we were miles apart, trapped in our own worlds. To answer a few questions, Sam was upset that I seemed to prioritize my new connection over our sibling bond. He confronted me at a family gathering where things escalated. Our argument revealed a secret about our biological parents that changed Sam's perspective, leading to a tense silence and a strained relationship. Am I the idiot for telling my addict mother to get her act together or leave me alone? For context, I'm 23 years old and my mom is 41. My parents split up when I was 2, and I have always lived with my dad. My dad was single for years, going to college and taking care of me, trying to make ends meet. My mom, on the other hand, got in with the wrong crowd. She married someone else, and at first, they were doing well, and she attempted to even get custody of me while I was in 3rd grade, but failed. Then somehow, they both got addicted to pain pills and were always doing drugs, some I can't even remember the names of. They divorced when I was around 11, and my mom never even attempted to find a job for herself or stable housing, despite having a cosmetology license. She went to prison for 2 years while I was in high school due to drug possession near a school. I figured after she got out, she would change and get her life together. But no, she always tells me she loves me and wants to provide for me and things, but has never even attempted to get her life together to be able to do right by her child. Often, she'll call me saying that she's depressed and wants to end it all, or that I'm a terrible child because I don't call her every day. I work full-time on top of taking multiple classes for respiratory therapy, as well as living with my boyfriend and our 2 dogs. My schedule is very full, and I've told her she can always come by to see me and hang out, but she never does because she won't work to save for a car. I don't go see her because she's always at random houses with random people involved in drugs, and I feel uncomfortable. We got into an argument one day because I told her I'm an adult now and I provide everything for myself and that I don't need her anymore in the same way that I did when I was 12 years old. She lost her temper and basically said that I'm blowing her off, when in reality, she has never been there for me. Any advice or help or just genuine love and care has come from my dad and his side of the family. She gets jealous when she hears that I've spent time with my dad and not her. She told me that day I better take care of her when she's old, and I told her honestly, you never took care of me and couldn't even be bothered to get a job to support yourself your whole life, so why should I support you? It may have been harsh, and I hope my mom gets the help she needs, but I have tried for years to set her up with a job or connections or college, and she won't help herself. I am tired of pretending to care for someone who won't care for themselves and never took care of me. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. In reality, she has never been there for me. Any advice, help, or just genuine love and care has come from my dad and his side of the family. She shouldn't expect anything from you. She told me that day, I better take care of her when she's old. You have no responsibility for her. She has had a responsibility for you, and she has failed miserably. Comment 2. Not the idiot. I hope you go on to have a great life. It sounds like you are level-headed and doing all the right things. I'm sorry she couldn't make herself better for you, but I'm happy that you understand that you are responsible for your own life and not hers. I know I'm just a random internet stranger, but I'm proud of you. You sound like an amazing person. Now, for the update. I'm not sure what to do about my mom, but I'm done trying to fix her. Part 2. A week later, I get a call from my mom saying she's in town and wants to meet up. I was shocked, but considering her past history of empty promises, I was skeptical. I told her we could meet at a diner and hoped for a calm conversation. I got there early, ordered some coffee, and felt anxious about the whole thing. When she walked in, she looked messy and shaky, and I was immediately concerned. She sat down and started talking about how she'd been trying to get her life together. I listened, but I noticed she kept glancing at her phone nervously. Suddenly, she got a text and excused herself to the bathroom. While I waited, I overheard a couple at the next table talking about a recent overdose in the area, and it made me worry about her. She took longer than expected in the bathroom, and when she returned, she seemed more agitated and quickly changed the subject. I asked if everything was okay, but she brushed it off, saying she was just stressed. The conversation shifted to my job and school, but she seemed uninterested. I tried to steer the talk back to her life, but she just deflected. We finished our meals, and then she asked to borrow some money for emergencies. I hesitated because I remembered past times where money wasn't used responsibly. I told her I couldn't help financially right now. Her expression shifted from casual to angry, and she accused me of forgetting where I came from. I told her that I worked hard to build my own life and can't support someone unwilling to change. She stormed out of the diner. I left the diner and passed a local community center where I saw a flyer for a support group for families dealing with addiction. Later that night, I got a call from a family member saying my mom had been seen hanging around some questionable crowds again. A few days passed, and I spent some time with my boyfriend. Then I got a call from my dad, who said he was worried about my mom after hearing some rumors from friends. I shared my recent encounter with him, and he suggested that we both reach out to her one more time. We agreed to meet for a family dinner to talk about our concerns. At dinner, the atmosphere was tense, and both my parents struggled to find common ground. I suggested we all attend a family meeting at the community center to better understand addiction. My mom seemed resistant at first, but eventually agreed, saying she wanted to do better. However, just the next day, we found out she'd been spotted at a local bar late at night. I decided to confront her again. I arranged to meet her at the community center to talk about the support group options. She showed up, but seemed defensive, insisting she didn't need help. I stood firm and told her we couldn't continue the relationship without some commitment to change. She left angrily, saying she'd figure things out on her own. So here I am, focusing on my own goals. Edit. After the dinner, my mom called to say she didn't want to attend the community meetings. She accused us of judging her and not being supportive. This led to another argument, with her claiming I had a perfect life and didn't understand her struggles. I tried to explain my perspective, but ended up hanging up the phone. Am I the idiot for sabotaging my son's exam to teach him a lesson and causing him to get bullied? I am a high school mathematics teacher. My son was in his first year and had become popular among his classmates. He was doing well in my classes, and so were his classmates. One day, I asked my son to send a message to his mother about something, since she couldn't find my phone, but he was too lazy to do it and asked me to do it myself. I saw that he had a WhatsApp group called Exam Answers. Of course, I had to check it out. My son was sending the answers to his classmates for my exams. I have a notebook where I write down the answers, and my son discovered it and was taking photos of them without me realizing it. I was very disappointed, so I decided to teach him a lesson. I wrote down all the answers incorrectly. If the students really paid a little attention, they would realize that they were terribly wrong. But even so, in the next exam, everyone actually used the wrong answers. At home, I ended up telling my son that I discovered what he was doing, and I did it to teach him a lesson. Of course, I punished him, and he and his classmates had to take summer classes since I gave them a surprise exam and they were very behind. That was last year, and now they are in their second year. I am no longer their teacher, but now I am worried. After that, all his friends stopped talking to him, and they all called him a cheater who made them fail on purpose. Now, also in the hallways, they call him an idiot who must copy in class to pass and constantly call the teacher's attention during exams by saying that my son is cheating, just to annoy him. I know that my son no longer cheats, since after last year's reprimand, I have been very strict with him regarding his studies. But now he has a very cold relationship with me. He has never directly blamed me, but I found out all this recently when a colleague told me how worried she was about my son. I talked to him about this, and he said that it's not my problem. We held a parent meeting to try to solve this, but I still don't know how to avoid the bullying. I had good intentions, but I think I didn't measure the repercussions it could have on the school. Any advice? To add, my son is currently 14 years old. To add, I don't know if this counts as publicly humiliating him. I changed the answers in my notebook, which I knew I would give to his classmates. When they all failed, they themselves told me that it was my son who gave them those answers, trying to get rid of the blame. Later at home, I told my son that I already knew that. Almost forgot. My wife agrees with the comments. I should have handled things differently. I am going to talk to him, and we will start the process to change schools. He will be a little further away, but it seems like the best option. I will also make an appointment with a family therapist for him, although he has told me that he does not need it. To add, we are Latin American. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Finding out the scope of the cheating was important to the school, to students who weren't cheating, and to make sure students who made bad and unethical choices had the chance to catch up with their studies. You should have worked with your son more since last year on teaching ethics and figuring out ways to address the collateral effects of what he did, including social blowback. Being strict with him about his studies will prevent him from cheating now, but it doesn't address the underlying issue and may ultimately be counterproductive. You will want to have parent-child therapy. You might want to brainstorm projects for him to give back to the school and community and work on them together. You may want to move your son to a new school where he can get a fresh start. Comment 2. Well, I may get downvoted here, but everyone sucks here. Your kid for obvious reasons. But oh man, OP, I have some words for you. Dude, you're a teacher. You should have taken a class in child psychology. You should know that public humiliation is a cruel and unacceptable type of punishment. Teens will push boundaries and mess up. Then you as a parent step in and enforce consequences and bring them back to the correct path. But publicly humiliating him to the point of being completely socially ostracized by his peers is horrid on your part. It feels incredibly cruel and malicious. Now, for the update, it's been 3 weeks since the last update. My son's summer classes have ended, and honestly, I thought that would be the end of the drama. Nope, not even close. He went back to school for his second year, and the bullying? Yeah, it's still going strong. I've tried to get him to talk about what's going on, but he's pretty much shut down. I noticed him avoiding the lunchroom like crazy. He eats lunch in the library instead. I guess he thinks if he's out of sight, they'll leave him alone. No such luck, I'm afraid. I went to a parent-teacher night at the school a couple of weeks ago. Besides the fact that it was super boring, I overheard some students mocking him. They called him the math failure in front of other parents. Like, wow, real original, guys. That's not going to follow him around or anything. My wife suggested we invite his classmates over for a friendly gathering. She thought it might help him reconnect with some of his friends outside of school. We planned a small barbecue in our backyard. Nothing fancy, just burgers and hot dogs. I reached out to a few parents of his friends and got a handful of confirmations. The day of the barbecue arrived, and I set up the yard. I was trying to make it look as inviting as possible. My son seemed uneasy, but agreed to help. I guess he was just trying to go along with whatever we suggested at this point. As guests arrived, I tried to keep the atmosphere light. My son awkwardly interacted with his friends. Some of them were polite, but distant, which was kind of heartbreaking to watch. One kid, Derek, kept whispering to others and laughing. I heard their jokes about my son's past. It was like I could feel the collective eye roll of every parent present. At one point, I decided to step in during the barbecue. I shared a story about my own school struggles, which I thought might resonate with the kids. The kids listened, but Derek rolled his eyes the whole time. It was clear he wasn't taking anything seriously, and I couldn't help but think he was a ringleader in all this. After the barbecue, I found my son sitting alone in his room. He didn't say much, just that he was tired and wanted to sleep. I could tell he was upset, but getting him to talk about it is super hard. The next week, he got a surprise text from an old friend. They wanted to meet up and catch up. My son was hesitant, but agreed. I encouraged him to go, but stayed out of it. It's hard to step back sometimes, but I know he needs to figure things out on his own. The friend, Sam, turned out to be a big support for him. They hung out at a local arcade after school, which I think was a nice change of pace for him. One weekend, he invited Sam over for a gaming session. They decided to take on a big gaming tournament together. The tournament day came, and they had a blast. They didn't win, but felt good about competing. Honestly, I think just getting out and doing something they love was a win in itself. My son's classmates started to notice the change. Some even reached out to him about joining their gaming group. At this point, I could feel a slight shift happening, and I was cautiously optimistic. Then, I found out Derek spread rumors that my son was a cheater in the tournament. I was like, seriously? This kid just does not know when to quit. My son confronted Derek at school. A group of kids backed my son up and called out Derek. It was kind of like the universe decided to give my son a little help when he needed it most. Things started to change, and my son found new friends. They're a good group from what I can tell. We decided to keep a close eye on things moving forward. I've been trying to be more involved without being overbearing. My son and I have had some good talks, and while he's still guarded, I feel like he's starting to open up a little. I'm hoping this is just the beginning of better things for him, and we'll see where it goes from here. Edit. It's been 2 months since the last update. My son is doing better in school, and the bullying has decreased significantly. He is now part of a new gaming group, and they have a strong friendship. His relationship with his mother and me is improving, and he opens up more during our conversations. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.